Explain some more about using the solo and arm. So we're going to go right back here to the preference window in Live. I'll pull it up and we're going to look at the record warp launch here. And we have solo and arm connected. Now, of course, we went solo and we go here and we can solo one at a time. To do more than one solo, I need to hold down Command key. I can do more than one. Let go of the Command key, I click it, and they all go. So the Command key is very important here in order to maintain the solo or to add more solos. Now, I'm going to go back here again to the preference window. Same parameters here we're going to deal with. And I can go through the arm. And here in arm, we can do more than one solo without having to hold down the Command key. And I can also delete one at a time also. Before, if we did that and let go of the Command key, they would all just disappear. And next, we have preferences. And we're going back here to where nothing's open. And here again, we can do the same as well. So beware, the only time it really happens is when we are in the solo by ourselves, just solo only, no warp, and then just one solo at a time can happen. Okay, next. What I want to talk about now, so back to here, I'll put this on for my setup. It's about the configuration of the sends and returns. Now here, normally in a mixer I would see a send and then you would see a return. But we don't, because the return is automatically sent back through the system. It's like an invisible wire going on here. So for example, I've got this, let's turn this off, and I want to play this little piece here. This little percussion piece right here now. And I'm going to send this A out. And you can hear it going in there. And you see the level of raised higher here, actually. Now raise level here on the fader, then more going into it. And bring it back down. Now I can do the same for the send B. As I raise the level, and we hear the send B is a delay. And send A is a reverb. So we need to balance the two out when we're mixing, obviously. But this is a lesson in routing and signal path. So we see that I can raise the level here. It affects the faders here at A and B. And we'll raise those levels according to how much dB I'm sending through there. And this is all called post fader. So the signal comes through the fader. After that, it goes into the send. And we'll watch this. Once I pull the fader down on this one track for the percussion, there's no more audio going into that send. Now, another concept you need to understand here. I'll turn this off. I'll stop this clip. I'll start a new clip. But before I do, I want you to show you something. I want you to see something right here. Now here, I have several audio inputs I can get. I can get internal ones, which are the Melodyne Essential, Reason, and Record. I can also resample, meaning I can take the actual track I'm making and resample it back into the system. I can also get an input from 1 through 4. My violin could be inputted through here. And plus, you see in the bottom here, I can do my small room verb. I can do audio here. And you'll notice once I do that, the sub output here now changes. I have the ability to do a pre-FX, a post FX, and a post master. Now I'll try it here with the small room reverb, and I can make this pre, before the effect. Now, I'll turn this bass line here on. I'll turn the solo off. Now we see nothing at all going into the send. I turn this pre and post on, nothing at all is going there, right? Now I turn this up. Now we see it going in there. And this is pre. I'm going to turn this to pre now. See, it's more going into it now. This is pre effect. So it's sending more into here from the pre effect since the auto's up. So understand that. This is pre. So it's sending it to pre. Otherwise, when this is in post, you're not hearing it because it's sending to pre, but the set is not set for pre. Now, if I set this to post, and now it's post, it's coming back in again because it's coming from pre still. That's the pre signal going back out. And post is the post signal. This is after fader. Pre is before fader. Now, this represents for the sends and the returns. So I'll go back to here. So you got to understand the concept here about pre and post, and even about post mixer. So this is after it reaches the mixer and it gets there. This same thing is coming back in through here because it's an audio from. It's coming from somewhere. So if you don't get much more of this, I want you to read the manual and learn more about this. But this is all about signal routing. And the more you know about how to route signals and route sends and returns, understand pre and post, the better you'll be able to understand ways to mix in the system. This is a great overview to help you get your thoughts clear so you can understand what's going on here. That was very good. So now we're going to do something with sends and returns. Okay, so we saw the sends and returns. We've got our button right here. I'm going to press the returns, and the returns are back. There we go, right there. Now I've got returns here, and I got my sends. So I'm going to get rid of a few tracks here I'm not going to pretty much use too much. Let's get rid of this one here. I'll make some room here. That might stay a little bit right there. So we've got sends and returns. Now I have a reverb in one, so let's say I'm going to play something I'm going to probably, I can start out first of all just hearing what I've got first. That's not bad. So I've got that going on. That's not the track. Now you can see there the sound's going on. We've got that looped in there. We hear some reverb. Well, we can send other instruments there as well. I can send this other sound in there too. Make sure it's on. Now put it on. A little knocking, right? I may turn it off. So I'm trying to hear, what I'm trying to do right here, I'm trying to get my levels going on. So I know what's happening here. Now sometimes I might want to lower the sound down and have more of it in the reverb. This ethereal effect happens where we have the sound, it's there, but it's really in the air. And I've got my drums solid up front with not so much reverb, so we get this idea of positioning of the sounds within the mix. And so we'll try that right now. Okay, that's not too bad. So you can see I've got the reverb going one way, the one going the other way. It's pretty good. So next I've got these shakers. And I want maybe a little bit of verb for the shakers. Not really a whole bunch for them, but just enough. So I'll put a little verb for the shakers. They are some sort of a high sound anyway, so I'm going to add a lot more of this delay here. I want to hear them alone first, so I'll just cut these off. I'll turn it on here. That's confusing, right? So first, we're going to start from one angle first, is with the main beat. But I just want to get an idea how they sound together and the presence. So I want to maybe bring the presence down. Also, you can always pan stuff too a little bit if you want to do that as well. But right now, it's covering sends and returns. So next to the bass line, straight up the middle, love the bass line there. Don't want hardly any reverb on the bass line. So we got something going on there, a little mix. So we're gonna have a little bit of one, a little bit of the other one. So this way we can have more stuff in there. So I've got a little bit of that reverb going on there on the shakers. I can add a little, just delay here only. Let me just go here with just delay. And turn this on. Somebody's that for a mix somewhere. So we'll be creative for these. It's a little creative, right? A little nice little stuff there going on. Bring it down, ethereal again, but this is not reverb. It's more just a delay. I'm letting the delay do all the work there, and a little bit of that reverb. Not much is in there really. So I can put. I might try a little bit, right? A little bit. I don't need that though. I just need to have the delay do the job. And that's not too bad. Now suppose you want to do something else. So I got more ideas. You're thinking, oh man, I could be more creative. Well, here's how you do it. We're going to go over here, and we're going to go to edit. See, we're looking for an extra return. See if return to default's pretty good too as well. I can create a new insert return track. And we get one. There it is, return C right there. It's going to the master. And look what happened here in my sends. We have A, B, and C now. So I can create a new effect. So I go back in here. We're going over here to our live devices. I go to the audio effects. I may want to use a chorus or something. I'm going to put a chorus on the bass line or something. That might be kind of funky. So I'm going to grab the chorus here. I'm going to toss it over here. Get it right there. And pop it in. And we got a chorus there. Where's the bass line? Let's get that bass line going on. And I know where it's at. Here it is right there. So I'll put this on the bass line. I want to hear it solo. Let's try this. Notice that? Solo, you can't hear anything. Let's see that? When you go to solo, you don't get any effects at all. Because solo bypasses all that. It's just the instrument and you. So, a little quick lesson right there. So in this case, I probably want to cut everything else off. Here's my chorus right here. High pass. Ooh. My rate. Feedback. Ooh, get to see it, wet and dry. Now it's a little more wet. Ooh, what's this? I can add some more. I can do up to 12 different returns. One more return. I can get more. Where's it at? It's right over there. A D return. So I can have more returns. You can see it's right there. We can have more sends and returns going on here and really get this mix going on. So experiment and find out what works best for you and understand more about mixing with sends and returns. You know, when you're recording, you need to set up a mix sometimes for the vocalist or for the group and the bands and they're playing. And they want to hear, you know, they're in the headsets, they want to hear, play the drums and playing the guitar. These guys are going at it. But they got to have a headphone set mix. And the singer's got to have a mix so she can hear or he can hear what the vocals are going to sound like. And they want a certain level. They always do. Everybody does. We all want what we want, you know? And in the studio, you're in the control room, you may need a certain level for you. Or you may just send that same level back to them so you can hear what they hear and help them get the job done right. And here are two ways we can do a headphone set mix. So here's how it works. I'm going to go over here and show you that in the options menu, there's no ability to do a headphone set mix whatsoever. You know, so stop that. What you can do though, is we can set it up. So I'm gonna go here to this Q out. Go here, and I want to configure this so I can get a headphone set mix going. Now here we have the audio output device. I'm using the built-in output, the 1 and 2 output for my computer. That's only 1 and 2. I need to have more outputs. One for the main out and one for the headphone set mix. So we're going to go in here and we're going to select the Digidesign Mbox 2 Pro because I have 6 in but 8 outputs. So I can feed a couple headsets there. So I'm going to go here to Output Configuration. And here you can see I have 1 and 2 for my main out, 1 and 2 mono, 3 and 4 mono, and 3 and 4 stereo. And of course, 5, 6, 7, and 8, either mono or stereo, however I want to do that. So I have enough outputs. I just want to use 3 and 4 for now. So I'll do that. I'll press OK. And then I'll close the dialog box here for preferences for audio. Now next, you'll notice here in options, we still don't have that option yet to use the Q switches. So what I'll do, I'm going to go back here where it says Q out. I'm going to select 3, 4. And now we have 3, 4. You'll notice that the Q, or the solo button, turned to Q now. I'll go back to 1, 2, and you'll see it's solo. And I go to 3, 4, it's Q. So now you also see that where there was solo buttons, they're now headphone set buttons. So if I press play, you'll notice here it says 3, 4, nothing's going in there. In order to send the audio levels to the headphone set mix from here, I need to click on these headphone set icons. It used to be these solo icons. And now, you'll see, that's too loud there. So you can see the levels going in there and how loud they are. So what I can do now, it's in the red. And I can pull this down and get it, it's in the green. That looks better. That's much better. I'll bring it back up a little bit. And now we have 2 separate mixes. We've got one going for the main room, the master out, and one going for the Q out. But they have the same mix levels. And you notice that the ones that are set up for the headphone set are green, are blue rather. And if it's not going to the headset, it's green, as you can see here with the sends. So the sends are also. So be aware of that as well. If you're going to make sure you're going to do a headphone set mix, you have to notice that it goes from green to blue when you're sending the headphone set mix out. That's important to know. Okay, so if I don't want to do this, I want to do something different. I may need to send a separate different mix. Maybe a different mix in my room. I'm going to send a different mix to the band or to the guitar player. The guitar player says I want less bass. The drummer says I want more guitar, you know. So everybody wants what they want in the studio. And we got to keep everybody happy. They want to play the music. It's good to have a good vibe in the studio. A good vibe is important. So I'll stop it here. I'll say, okay, look, you know what we're going to do? We'll have separate mixes. And what I'll do is I'll go back here. I'll turn this cue off, and we'll stop that. Next, I'll push all these solo buttons off. I don't need them. So let's get them all off here. We won't need these solo buttons at all. Great. Now the next thing I want to do is create a separate mix. So I'm going to go over here to create, and I'm going to create an insert return track. Here it is right there, insert return, perfect. So now I want to send stuff to this track. And it's D, so it says D now. So first I want to name it, because I hate to sit around and what's on that track? Where's that again? I forgot it. So I put down Q mix. Now I know it's a headphone set mix, Q mix. Now here, the audio too is going to the master. Well, the master is in the control room. I don't want to go there. I want to go to an external source out. So I'm going to go here and go to X out. See that? And it's going to be 3-4. And there's 3-4 stereo. I grab that. Now I'm getting someplace. Now next, in order to feed the volumes in there and get the mixes they want, I will use the descends to send levels in there. I'll turn it on, and you'll notice that. I'll turn this off again, turn this down, and nothing's going in that D return. I'll turn it up some now, and now we have something going in there. And here, the next track and the next track, and you want to get levels for that particular person in there, you know. Whatever they want to give them what helps them to get the job done properly. And that sounds good. Now, once that's done, we may want to send them also some of the other effects as well. So we may want to send some of the reverb, some of the delay, some of that bass chorus. So hear the bass little chorus on it. The bass player might love that. And so we got that. In order to get that there, we're going to press this post button and make it pre for a D. So what happens here, those signals are coming back here through pre. And they're getting right there through pre for us, see? And they're coming to D right here. And that's how we can send a separate mix into the vocal booth or the group room. Sometimes I'm mixing and I'll have several tracks that are the same category, like drums or background vocals. And I want to put them into this one group because it makes it easier to mix, it makes it easier to EQ them, it makes it easier to do almost everything. So we're going to do that right now. So here I've got 5 tracks. It looks like 6 here actually. And I've got these 6 tracks here. And we'll hear them back for a second here. So normally I want to bounce my tracks. So I went through them real quickly here and get an idea what's going on here. This is not too bad. Those levels are good. And I want to go to my next track. That's kind of really small there. I thought that was a little small. So I'm going to go here, and it's going to do a little editing here for our track. Just sort of make it a little bit more, a little louder here. That's better for me. That's better. That's better for that track. And we're going to go back here for this track here. And this is really not that. It's supposed to be kick. So I'm going to label my track. Great. And this level's not bad. Bring it up. Let's say hair. That's good. So you see here, I'm right here in the sample view, in the clip, right next to detune and transpose. I'm bringing up some of the audio file, 2 dB. So I can get some good levels. And this is good. And then my snare looks pretty good here, and so does the kick drum. Great. So I've got these tracks. I think one track has a little noise on it here, I think. Yep, this one right here. I don't like that at all. Let's turn up some here. So run this track here, yep. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go here to the rim shot. I'm going to pull in a little gate right here. We'll set up already for us. That's better, nice little gate on top of there, getting that noise. Oh yeah, now I'm feeling it. That sounds pretty good there. Not too bad. Okay, good. So we got these tracks. I want to group them up. So I'll select all my tracks, hold down Shift, hit the first and last track, and now I can make them into a group. I'll press Command G, or on a PC it's Control G. And you can see right here, they've turned into a nice group there. And I have my group little wheel right here. I can switch them off. I can flip them into one group or make them spread out. See? It's a really great way to have your tracks lined up, and it makes it easier for you to control the tracks. And the beauty I like about this, we can have individual effects for each track. So for example, you just saw me put an effect here on this snare drum. And that snare drum's there. I go back to here, I pull it up, that's it. I go to snare, and I put an effect on it. You know, make it easier. So well, let me hit a snare again. Let me go back to the snare and hear it again. Oh, this one here, actually. So this track right here. This one. So that effect right there. So you can affect each track. This makes it easier than having them all just on one MIDI file. If I have them all on separate tracks, I can also EQ them. I can add a gate or a reverb somewhere. I can add a little bit of flange or maybe on that hi-hat somehow to give it a little like club-like feel to it. So, you know, it's really a great way to actually work with tracks. And this is what we call in the business as subgrouping. So you make a group out of a bunch of tracks, and it's a subgroup within the mix. So for example, if I close this group up and I'm playing the tracks, this one fader controls all of them. See that? This fader right here controls all those tracks, which makes it easier. Rather than having to keep moving or turn the hi-hat up or turn them off as one group, this one group fader controls all of them. And then internally within this group, they have their own separate levels. I can say, well, turn this one down, play it back, listen to this here, how's that sound, bring this down to here. I can also provide panning, a little panning this way. This can pan just a slightly this way. I can do a little panning in here too as well. Now as I pan them, and I get the levels correct, you'll notice here it does not affect the group. The overall group track setting for the panning is the same, and there's no problem with that. So that makes it even better. So this is a great way to actually work with groups. I like it particularly with vocals or, like I said, drums or anything that combine, like a bunch of different shakers or a bunch of different snares. In some club mixes, I may have 3 or 4 snare drums. I may want to put them so that they sound almost similar, but they have some sort of effect as the song moves on. A different snare for the chorus. Sometimes guys will put a different snare for the verse. It'd be slightly different, but have the same effect, but have a little harder hit during the chorus. So this is kind of cool. So I can go back to here, and you'll notice too that in this group track, and to the right of it, there's these little signs, meaning that there are clips in this group, and you can see that. So I can just fire a clip off from here. I can go like this, and it plays. Stop from here. Rather than go inside and have to do each one of these drum sounds separately, it makes it easier. And also, I like to name my tracks too as well. So I got some names that should be here. There we go. And one here. It's a clave. And I'm good to go now. Now I'm just about ready. So it's set up to go. It makes it easier for us to work. We got our volume controls, and there's no problem working with anything. Now I can also do my sends and returns. Like for example, I've got to return A and I got to return B here. Now for A, let's get a reverb, something classic, you know. Everyone wants a reverb somewhere. So I'm going to scroll down here in my live devices and find a reverb I could use. And I'll get a nice, maybe a smaller room, a drum room. Here you go, perfect. I'll get a drum room. And we'll take this drum room and we'll put it right here in the return. It's right there. Great. And now I can go over here in the group, on the group track right here, and I can say, let's add this in a little bit. So I'll say, let's go back to here. Let's fire these bad boys off. Yep, there we go. Now, one thing about drums, I never put a reverb on a kick drum. I mean, if I do, it'll have to be rare. It's a little bit of reverb, and for club, it'll be a punch enough reverb where there's a little reverb in the background. I have a balance, so I can just have a dry mix of the drum and have like a little reverb of the drum when I want to. So here, what I do is you can say, well, look, I don't want to have that on that drum, you can say. So you can just say, turn it off, and see, we can cut it off totally. We can have this, I'll say, forget this. We'll just have the sends here. So the send is here. I'll send here, see? I'll send here. So we can send individual sends out rather than doing a whole group send. And then we turn the sender going on. You're gonna hear it, right? So watch this. Now I'll go to here. So now you hear it because the kick drum's not feeding much now. I'm gonna put a little. I do put a little bit, but not you can't really hear it. Just enough so it's there, because the kick drum is the center of attention right there. It holds the whole pulse together on the rhythm section. The heartbeat. So we got a little bit more of that you hear on those clave sounds, and a little bit of on the triangle with the shakers. So I can bring that back some. I can put a little bit more here in the shakers and bring this back. So we can adjust the sends and returns also if we want to, but it's still one overall mix. And it's still just a group. Close it up, this just affects the group only. Open it up, and the group's right there. And I can also, if I want to say, well, you know, I may not even want that on there. So I can go to here, and I can say, well, look, I want to get something different. I want to maybe cut the highs out somewhere. So I'm going to scroll back up here to an EQ. If I can find an EQ. Oh, we go. EQs are right here. We got drum EQs. So I want to give it some of the highs. I'll use this one here. And we'll pop this one in. And that appears there just like that now. And now I'll play it back. See that? That's the whole group. But suppose I don't want that on one sound. Solve it real easy. Here's how you do it. You go here, it's in group, now send it to the master. And then that way, that sound's not affected by that effect in the group. Now I'll play it back. See? That drum is not affected at all. So you see that? That's a great way to work. So, whenever you're trying to lock something up and you want it to have that really great feel to it, I like to work with groups. It's so important to keep the groups going in the right direction. And plus, you know, I launched a clip swap from here. It's even better. And I can close it up, and we got something going on. And that's how we can create groups in Ableton Live. We want to talk about effects devices. So when you're actually making tracks up, sometimes you want to add some effects, EQs, or a compressor, or a reverb. Yeah, you never know. And we're going to talk more about that right now. So let's get to there. I'm going to go here to the devices in the browser here. You'll see here devices. And here we have a list of audio effects, as you can see here. I can scroll down using my down arrow, and we're scrolling down here through the effects. And we have a really huge choice of effects. Now, how this works, let's say, for example, I've got this track here, and let's say we've got this little sitar track right here. Okay, I've got this sitar track I just clicked on, as you can see, and right now, we see the clip, the sample. Okay, now, go to audio, and here, we would drop our audio effects here, okay? So let's say I want to put a flange on this. I'm going to grab this flange and stick it right in here, and it opens up. That's pretty cool. I can undo that. I can also grab this flange and let's say, stick it right here. I have to go to the track. Whoops, go right to the track here and put it there. And it appears there's two ways to get the device right there in the track. Now, if I grab here and do that, I may want to see, you know, a list. So I can do a hot swap here. When I press hot swap, here's what happens. Hot swap mode opens up in the browser menu. And then I could look for a preset that I like that I want to use. I could say I may want to use this metallic or this flanger thing, we'll say here. So I'll select that, you know, we'll say select the flanger one. And that's what I'm going to use. So I have the flanger one right here. Here it is. Once I click on this bar here, as you can see here, we have this button right here, which is our device activator. I can click here to activate or to deactivate. It's pretty simple, right? And you can see here, we have a list of parameters that we can actually make brand new settings for. And these are the settings just for the flanger effect. And to hear this effect, I'd probably go to here, I click solo, and I press play. here. You'll see that that's really loud going in there. So I'm gonna bring this down. Play it again. And see, that doesn't even affect that. See that? So get the idea that that's not really going to affect it. What we need to do is to make sure that while we're dealing with this, that we want to cut our levels right. So you can always learn to adjust some of the parameters within your setting. That's it. So a little too loud going in there. So you have it wet and dry also. Just a wet and dry. So that's how an effect works generally when you're popping in. You can do more than just one effect too as well. Like I may just say, I'll take this one out. I don't like it. We'll say. And I'll go back here, I'll find a different effect. I want to use a filter this time. So I want to use a filter. But I want to put EQ in front. I'll grab an EQ here, and I'll go here to the front. And you see a line goes right there. So let's do that again. Let's undo this. And you'll notice if I grab this EQ, a little line appears right before the filter delay, which means that the device will go there. Well, I can move to the back, and a line will appear after the delay. See that? So be aware where you want to use it. Now, generally, when you've seen a mixing board or a mixing console and you're working in a studio and you see these big boards, generally they'll have like an EQ first. So an EQ would appear first. Then there'll be a compressor after that. That's a general rule, because generally you want to have to maybe EQ the sound and then compress its overall dynamic. And that's a general rule sometimes. But sometimes, if the sound is just really not so great and a little low, you may have to increase the dynamic and get it thin enough and tight enough, and then EQ the sound. So depending on the situation, you have to be creative when you are using these elements in your recording process. So one thing I want to show you also here is I have a group, say for example, I have a group right here. And here we have a hi-hat EQ. See that in the group here? Now this affects everything in the group. So I have a group here, and all these items get affected. But when I'm hearing the sitar, only the sitar gets affected in the group. See, it's only the sitar that this effect is on that track. So you go to this track here. It says on the track 11. So to make sure I know what's going on here, I need to name that track. Let's go ahead and name it. And now it says sitar. And I can see that this effect only affects the sitar. Now I got this effect going on, you know. See how it affects that? Or the compression ratio? So there are different ways to use these settings, and we'll cover that more in our next couple of videos. Right now, I'm just trying to get you to understand the concept of grabbing an audio device with an effect and placing it on the track or within the group here, as you can see. Now, when it's in the group, it'll affect everything in the group. The whole group will be affected by that. Now we're going to deal with the EQ. So we use EQs to affect certain sounds. You shouldn't use them all the time, though. Use them when you're trying to maybe embellish a frequency or to actually reduce one in the mix, or let's say you want to reduce a frequency in the kick drum or your snare or in the bass. So we get this overall idea, we can hear everything. That's the whole perception. I want to get everything heard, but make sure nothing collides or gets in the way. So here in live, we have a device known as EQ8. So I'm going to drag it in. First, I'm going to find a track to use. I think we'll try a kick drum first. Here's a kick drum right here in the group. Now before I said if I put the kick drum on the group, it'll affect the entire group. Here, I'm going to put a kick drum EQ on that particular sound. See? And right here below, you see it says EQ. It says kick drum. My EQ is going to be right there. So this is here. That's the clip. And here's our device. So as you can see here, there's a gate prior to this, right? So I can remove the gate also. I can just press delete, and the gate's gone. And the first device we have is the EQ. Now this EQ here, as you can see, here's a line running through here. So this represents the frequency. And the frequency is passing through here. And these represent different notches I could have. For example, here's 1, 2, 3, 4. These are switches. Here's 1, I can switch to 2, 3, or 4. And as I do, you'll notice the frequencies right here, these three little rotation knobs here, are frequency, gain, and then we have the Q. Okay? And these just represent whatever I select. I can select one here, and now a new one appears here. I can select here, here, and here, and now we can see all 8 available spots. I'll take them off now. As I do, you'll notice that these are not enabled. Now here below here, we have more switches. And we have our switches right here, which help affect the frequency as far as how it will pass through. Now, for example, right here, this is our low cut frequency right here. And so when that's in position, say we're here, we have a low cut frequency going on. And you see that I went to 1 here, and I went to low cut frequency, it cut the lows. So it's a low cut, high pass filter on this EQ here. Okay? That's what that represents there. So I can go back out of that. Let's say, no, I want to go to here. And right here, we have a shelving filter. Okay, so it means that this is sort of a shelving filter. I can say that's a filter that's going to shelf it there, and I can maybe increase the frequency, so I can find a frequency to be at actually, and I can increase the gain of that particular shelf. It's like a little shelf. So this whole shelf here, it raises everything right below here up. Okay, and I can click right here, that little diamond in the middle, triangle, and it's back to normal. Now the next we have, this is a band pass filter right here. So why is a band to pass? You got me? It's a filter right there, which is really cool you can have, and then it makes it easier. Here's a notch. So see, it's a little notch. I click on that little notch there, and all of a sudden it went down because it's saying, well, wait a minute, we're bringing it down because it's frequency like this. Look at that. I can just a notch filter, or I can just say, well, look, up that or lower down in the filter. All depends on where I want that notch to be and how I want that cue to be. And next here, we have another shelving element right here, just like here, 2 shelves. And this last one is the high cut low pass filter. So you see it cuts the highs and lows can pass through. Let's say, for example, we're working with a session, we got these tracks going up, and we want to get an idea of how this kick drum sounds. And you've got to be aware of how each drum or each element sounds that you're trying to EQ. Now, for example, kick drums, I really don't want too much mid-range. I may want some snaps. So the snap's going to be somewhere around 2K, and I want to maybe cut the mid-range out about maybe, I'd say about 250 to 300 hertz. Okay? And I may want to boost the bottom too as well. So we'll see it here. I may say, okay, well, look, I want to go somewhere maybe in this range here where 2's at. I may want to take the 2 frequency down to about here into about this range here. And I want to probably gain it a little bit. So I'm gaining it up. So I'm going to go to gain right here. See, we're doing a gain. And when it gets gain, it gets a little mountain. It's a little hill-like. Not a mountain, more like a hill, right? A little hill. And if I take the Q, I can make it into like a real steep hill. Or I can make it into a pretty wide hill. Mountain's a hill. That's a mountain, right? Maybe so. So what I would do then, I would take this one sound and I would probably try to just play it back. So what I'm going to do, I'm trying to do a stop on most of the stuff here. Do a stop on everything else. And put a stop here. Stop that. And I'm going to just play this one item here. And I'll turn this solo off on the sitar. So I have 2 elements here, as you can see. Right about there. So I have these 2 elements and I've got the clap and I got a kick. And so I may say, well, you know, I want to get rid of this kick frequency. So now I see it's right there. I boosted the frequency I want to get rid of. So what I generally want to do is I want to boost the frequency I want to get rid of and then reduce it. This way I can find out where it's at. If I don't boost it, I really don't hear it. So this is what we always generally do. And next what I'll do, I'll turn this backwards. I'll say, well, we're not going to gain. We're going to cut. And now I'll play it back. So you got more bottom to that bass drum. The reason why, because you can hear that. You can hear the element there where the bass drum before was a different sound, and now I pulled out that mid-range, and that mid-range frequency right in there, about 250 hertz to 300 hertz, is where I want to drop out that frequency. And when I do, we get this sound here you can hear right now. So now, depending on what I want to do here, maybe I want to take the Q. Hear the difference? And that's what I'd probably do. I may want to I can either increase the gain or lower the gain, depending how much I want to take that one frequency out. I'm trying to cut that frequency out like that. Now, if you're not really familiar with how to use an EQ that great, and you want to get more familiar with it, there's plenty of books on it. You can read Mix Magazine. But also, even when you pull the EQ up, what you can do, you can pull up this thing we got called a spectrum analysis. And this thing, you put it right here, and I'll play the bass now. Now you see here that there's my peak. You see where I cut right there. So let me play it again. And it's showing you what the natural original frequency is of this particular item. I can hear the clapping here also. If I had it by itself, it would be better. That was just for a purpose of demonstration. So you can get the idea of how, let's say, for example, here in spectrum analysis, that we can see how high up that bass drum is in a frequency. And you can get an idea, well, what's that high? I know what I'm cutting and what I'm trying to balance in the overall mix. So it's good to check out the spectrum analysis of any sound you're trying to work with, and it'll help you get around the idea of how to use your EQ. That was pretty good with the EQ. Well, next I want to apply compression to the same track. So we're going to go here. Obviously, I'm going to get the compressor. I'm going to grab it from my live devices, click on it there, and drag it here into the device window right here. Great. For that track. So now I have a compressor. Now a compressor, as you can see when you pull it in, we have this one line here which represents this dB level here for the threshold, we'll say. And once the sound passes the threshold, then the compressor applies compression to the signal. Now here, we have a compressor, and I'm going to play, bring it down. See, it's really compressing. So I need to try to find a point where we can get some of the other softer sounds and boost those as well. So we're trying to get the really loud part of this attack on this kick drum and bring it down a little bit while still boosting up the sounds underneath. So you want to sort of compress the overall sound quality and get it so it has this, every element's in there, and it has this one level that's consistent with the high and the low within that sound quality that we can hear. So it's sort of picking up some of the softness parts of the bass drum along with keeping the loud parts somewhat down to make them both come together. Now when we do apply compression, we think in terms of ratio. Now for example here you'll see it says 2 to 1. Now when using a ratio, what we're actually saying here is that for every amount of dB that come in, we're going to just send out just 1 for 2 to 1. So let's say for example I have 10 dB of audio here. Well for that 10 dB, I'm going to just output 5. Or if I have 12 dB coming in here, I'm just going to output 4 for a 3 to 1 ratio. Now with a ratio, you know, a 1 to 3 is a pretty low ratio, and then a 3 to 6 a medium, and 7 to 10 is a really a lot of compression on a particular sound. And we're going to see that right now. So we're going to go here. I'm going to play this and get an idea. You know what happens? That's too much compression. So I'm going to go. Getting enough sound so I can have it where it sounds like a little pump is there. I want to get the right feel to it. Now this knee is sort of like makes it softer so that it doesn't have this really hard compression attack as you can see there. And that's like a knee. Think of like your knee, and if it's real hard, this will be at 0 dB. So I'll bring this to 0 dB. That's a really hard. Once it gets here, the attack starts. It's okay. We're going to start cutting back on dB level. So right a little bit above minus 12 dB within this range here, that you can see right there, it's a very hard attack. So sometimes I want a softer attack. So it's not so hard, but it just sounds it's really good. And gives a nice quality to the attack. And that's the purpose of it. Now here's the attack right here. Now, when you're first starting out, you're going to use a compressor. I suggest you use pretty much a little shorter attack and have a longer release. That way, you get enough attack going on, and the release is long enough so you can hear other elements that are happening before they get, popped out of the actual overall sound. And as you work longer and longer with the compressor, you can sort of adjust that release to what works best for you in your overall, creative process. So here, I've got like a 1 millisecond attack. So I adjusted it. I went straight down. I got to the point where I liked it and kept it there. And I can hear that. You got to sort of hear where you like this actual attack to be. So I've got about 3.46 milliseconds of this attack happening. And then here, I've got my release about 21 millisecond, which is pretty cool. And the last thing I'm going to deal with generally is the output. So I'm going to make sure my output's at a certain level. So you can see here with output, I want to make sure my output has that right peak level. Not want to go too far over it, but just enough to where I can boost this output enough where what I've got works or not. And a way to really check it out is to always listen to your compression and then hit this bypass button. So you can hear how it sounds with and without. So make the comparison between the two. That makes it much easier for you. Delays are great devices. I like to use a delay, get that repeat effect, particularly using club or house music. And sometimes I get that little delay effect for the vocals, no matter what you're doing. In a real cool ballad, it works out great at the right moment. So right now I want to talk more about, obviously, delays. So here I have a delay in a track right here, as you can see. And this is our simple delay right here. Of course, I drag and drop it right here into our device drop window right here. And here in this delay, you can see we have a lot of parameters here, right? A whole lot, but this is pretty simple. It's not that much. So for example, here we have left and right. So this is a left input, and it's the right input for our stereo delay. And in some cases, we just have like a mono track, so we'll take that mono and split it into a stereo delay. So this will toggle the delay on or off too. So that's off, and this is on. Or I can turn this off to have a left delay, or turn this on and have a right delay. And this will be both delays at the same time, left and right. Now here is the button that toggles back and forth between the bandpass filter. So the delay's still working, but I also may not want to use the filter. So this is a bandpass filter, which happens right here, obviously. And you can see we have it set for 627 hertz, which you can see right there. And as I move it around, you can see I can go from left to right and increasing my hertz, but all along the same level right there. Now here below here, this slider adjusts the bandwidth of the filter. So my filter could be down here, or the bandwidth of the filter could be up to there. That's pretty much almost the center position right now. Now next, over here on the opposite side here, we have sync. So what sync does, sync toggles the delay mode between the beat synced and time based. So for example, this is sync, so that means a 1, so it's going to be constantly moving. And then I move to 2, it's going to be almost 16 notes going on. So it represents sort of this carrier between a 16 note time. When I go here to 3, this 3 represents almost 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And 4, of course, is almost like quarter notes when I repeat it back. So I'm going to do it one time here. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a quarter note. And here, check this out. This is the 1. So it's like, just repeating, like almost like eighth notes, 16 notes rather. It's like a 16-note delay right there that first time. So it's really fast, of course, and just a delay that happens consistently. Now, of course, right here, this is our beat offset percentage. I may want to sometimes offset this so it doesn't really repeat exactly on, but almost lingers out, which I may use a lot for like a nice ballad of a vocal and sort of let that delay happen. The first time could be almost on, just let it sort of delay out, to get that nice flowing, wavy type feel with my delay. So we can also offset delay, and we can sync, or we can set it to a time. We can say, well, I want my delay to be 65.0 milliseconds. and so the delay will be that much. And I can hit it and say, and wow, it hit. We're waiting for it to come back, see, and delay's on. So you have to be aware about where the delay's at, what that time's going to mean in terms of when will it come back. So you got to check your milliseconds out and say, well, how fast is it going to be? Now, also we have feedback. It represents how many times it's going to keep doing that. So, for example, here I can see this 2 time here, and we're going to use sync, and we're going to do it. And I'm moving up even more here. I'll do it again. It's almost infinite now. It's repeating, 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 repeating. See, I pull this back, hey, it's dead. So, of course, the less we have of feedback, we have none or very little delay. And the more feedback we have, we can have a lot of delay or just make it infinite. This just keeps going until we turn the machine off. This constant delay, okay? Then we have our panning. We can be in the center frequency or left or right with the delay. And this is where it's cool when you can automate your center frequency from left to right, back and forth. And it gives you that really, really cool effect where you have it in the headset or even in the speaker mix where you may want to have, sometimes I have a hi-hat go back and forth sometimes it's really fast and some club music or even some sort of chorus thing happening on a particular synth device, plus a chorus and the delay. So also really cool effects I like to use my delay for as well. Next, we have the volume of the delay. So I can increase the volume of the delay right here. And you see that the volume is much louder, as you can see it from the video meter. Now here also, we have this dry and wet. This is mostly a dry volume meter here. So it's at 0 dB we'll have most of the dry, which is the original sound. And the rest will be just delay going in. So I can always adjust this. I can turn this down. I want to have less. Let's have none at all. Let's try this. And now we'll try it with it. And you hear it. That first hit is right there, and the rest of them are delays manufactured by the plugin. So you want to get somewhere where this original sound sounds natural with the delays that are delaying from the plugin. So you want to adjust your dry against the wet. Wet is processed, and the dry is unprocessed signal. And experiment with your delays, see how they work, and use them in the mix. You know, get an idea of what you're going to do with your delay, and get a feel also for this part here where we have, I can grab this right here, and this is my XY control button, and I can do this with the delay. I can just move it around the delay. I can have a delay and make it move around inside of it. So you see that? I'm changing the filter, the bandpass filter in there, and moving along that frequency range, and you can hear how that affects the sound. So check it out. This is our delay filter that you can use in live. This next lesson is about using a limiter. Now, I've seen guys limiter, and a lot of people don't use limiters the right way, particularly when they first start out mixing or trying to get those tracks right. And a limiter is like a compressor, except it's more than this 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 or 6-to-1 or 10-to-1 compression ratio. It's even higher than that. It's very high. And once you get that high above your compression ratio, then you're not a compressor anymore. You become a limiter. And the whole idea is to limit the amount of overall output to sound while still increasing that dynamic range. So here's how it works. I'm going to go here and pull a limiter off of the live devices, and you're going to see I'm going to grab this master track, and I'm going to put the limiter right here. And here we have a limiter. So here, of course, you can see we have our gain in terms of dB. So we want to gain some dB out of the entire limiting process. And here we have a ceiling. So the ceiling sets the height at which, or how high or how loud the signal's going to get in the overall mix. In this case, we're going to put the limiter on the actual master output. So this means we're going to keep the master output below a certain dB, which I always prefer to be below 0 dB. So here, for any case, that's 0 dB, that's the max. So I want to come down a little bit in dB and make sure I'm just below that 0 dB. Now also, the next button we have is our stereo button. And this switch sets how the limiter treats stereo signals. So a stereo switch here means it applies limiting to both channels whenever either requires compression in this limiter. So that means no matter what, you may have this weird thing of doing a live sound, and maybe the drums is this overhead microphone, and we've got the left and right going up and down. So no matter which one goes up and down, as a problem happens, it requires compression, limiting here in this process, it'll apply it to that either left or right. And when it's set for just here in this left or right, like this signal as it is right now, just setting an overall limiting process. So I prefer to do the stereo rather than just left and right. It makes you heavy on one side rather than the other. So when switching to the stereo, it's good, but the left and right applies independent limiting to each channel. So that means it may do just one side, other side, and that may just skew your overall mix where just one side will be too much compared to the other. We don't want that. Preferably, I want to use stereo. Now the look ahead adjusts how quickly the limiter will respond to peaks. It's really big bumping peaky sounds. And shorter look ahead times allows for like greater compression, but with an increase in distortions here. So sort of looking ahead, it's seeking out, but it might also increase distortion. So you gotta be careful in using your look ahead. That's important. And auto right here, this auto sort of enables this automatically, just to start adjusting automatically. Now without it, you have to set some sort of release point that when its release happens, then compress. So the release sets how long it takes for limiting to stop after the signal drops below the ceiling. So that's the release point. Okay, but in this terms, for today I'm going to use this auto. And you can always experiment with it also as well. Now, once I get my level set here, I like it, I'll just play a track here. And so I'll make sure it can go up so high. As I do bring it down, you can see that what happens. You see this little orange peak come down. So it's just sort of applying this limiting to the overall track. When I get them trying to go like below 10 dB. And what I could do here, I can also, let's say maybe increase this level here just for experimental purposes and show you that. Now bring it back up. You get the difference there. Once I bring it back up, we get more of that heavy clap over there, and it's going to start to really get really loud because I'm reaching that peak where I want to have this limiter go almost to the top of the ceiling there. And you want to create some headroom. It's important because in order for a reverb to be heard, there must be headroom. So that means if your signal's below the ceiling level and the reverb comes in, the reverb will fill that extra void up there. So we do not want to be at the peak. We want to make sure we come off the ceiling and create some room in the overall mix quality. And using a limiter will help you do that. Keep it from going to the ceiling, but get enough of the dynamics within the mix to give it that bump. Now I want to talk about reverb. So of course we have reverb. We want to create this sort of spatial atmosphere around the mix or several elements in the mix. Could be, let's say it's the drums. I won't have hardly any reverb on the bass drum, but a little bit, but some reverb on the snare, more reverb on the little hi-hats. I'm gonna have real reverb on a tambourine. I mean, just bring it back some and bring it back out, in the mix somehow. So reverb is everywhere, particularly go to the bathroom, no matter what you do, there's reverb. And so we have to also show this in our music and in the mix. And in order to do that, I'm going to show you some ideas here with the drums and reverb. Now, of course, I have a track here all set up right now, which is the set I'm using, which is Sen A. And you see I have drum room, which is drum room verb I have. Of course, I got it from here, from my live devices, and dumped it right here into the device section. So, as you can see here in the reverb, what we have going here is we have our input element right here in processing. But right here below that, we have our pre-delay. Now, how pre-delay works is that, for example, for every 1 millisecond of pre-delay, that represents about a foot. So here it says about 8 feet. This is a pre-delay prior, it's right there, pre-delay. When the sound goes from your mouth, it hits that bathroom wall, you're in that bathroom, comes back at you, that's your pre-delay. So it's really like a fast pre-delay we're setting up here. So it's prior to the sound delaying overall. And in the network, once you hear a sound delay a little bit, it reflects off surfaces. And then after the first time you hear it, there are more reflections happening, which is what our diffusion network is about right here, okay? So first I want to talk about this repeat and this deflection thing. So here, for example, I can bring it up or down. It's going to go up to approximately 250 milliseconds and bring it down again to just like 0.5, all right? So I think I'll play a little something here. I'm going to put some reverb. As you can see here, I have the group right here. And I'm going to send from A into my drums right here. See my drum return right here. And I'll press play. And that's just a little bit. And I'm going to add a lot of pre-delay now. So it sounds like a lot. You sound like a bigger room. Now, the weird thing about this is that just that one delay. It's not echo or reverb. It's just a delay of the signal. As it delays slowly further back and it delays longer. Now, as that does delay like that, and you hear it, you're just hearing that first delay. You don't hear more diffusion stuff going on at all, but just that delay. So this delay, depending on how you set it, you want to set it so that it actually just has enough of this feel. I can just drag my mouse along it just to get the right amount of room size. I said before, 1 millisecond to 1 foot. Now, here we have our input processing. We have the high and cut. For example, here I have a high cut and a low cut. So I can cut this high cut and low cut. And here we have the center frequency. So my center frequency can be moved along this line. And I can go anywhere from 50 hertz to 18 kilohertz for my center frequency. And I can cut a lot of highs and bring them back into, or cut the lows as well. Now here we have spin. And what our spin represents here is just the ability to get to different surfaces to bounce off several reflectives. So it might bounce to the side of the wall, the corner of the wall. But when we hit the corner of the wall, we got 3 surfaces. We have like the ceiling and the wall to the left and to the right. So that reflection is kind of really weird. So it bounces off of there. And where it goes from there, you don't know because it could bounce several different ways. So this provides the spin that you get inside a room as well. And also here we have the shape of the room. This is our shape parameter. And so I can raise this parameter up here and get a bigger shape. You hear that right now. Oh, my low cut too. Now I'll bring it up even more, add more. And you can hear it right there where it's like really loud. And you get this almost metallic feel right there. That's because it got so much pre-delay and this metallic feel comes in there. So we're going to maybe bring some of this down too as well. But this is to give you an idea so you can listen to what's happening with the reverb. And so this shape will give us that size there. Now here, the size will give us this perceived room size. So now that's the shape and the pre-delay, we can use this parameter here, the room, to give us a certain size of that room. So I move it around, and we get the size of that delay, that room size totally. Now also here, you'll notice here I have that delay set for the overall drum pattern, right? Now I can turn this down, and since I have a group here, I'll pull the group up. You can see the group right here. I have the group going on right here, so you can see how this group works with everything else that's going along here. I have the group, and so the entire group, so I say I don't want much delay. I can go right here in my master, and instead of having this on the kick drum, I can just keep it just off the kick drum and just go directly to the group. Let's say, for example, here I have everything in the group, right? This is in a master now. So the master means that this kick drum's not being played in the group. It's just as far as this effect is concerned. Okay? So that means the effect overall output of this is only going to go on the tracks that have group here in the audio 2. Great. So you can see that totally. Now here, we also have stereo. And this tells us the width of the room, how wide the image is going to be. So we'll play it back and try this parameter. Now I'll turn it up now. You can hear the difference there. I turn it way up, turn it way down. We get this wider, this width sound. And I want you, when you're actually practicing with your Ableton, is to get the idea of how reverbs do sound with different elements besides not just the drums, but also when dealing with, say, a piano or I like them on strings a lot. I like to put the reverb on the strings and bring the strings down somewhat. You get this ethereal sound where the strings are out in the air, and you can get the balance between the actual original signal and then this reflective surface thing going on with the reverb. It's a really great feel to get, and you'll get to understand more about how reverbs work, reflective surfaces. Now here we also have the quality in our global section. And this is the quality. What this has to deal with is the device itself working with plugins. So here, for example, I will just, let's say, to eco. This means economy, because I may not want to use so much CPU power. So as we know, up here in the upper right-hand corner, we have this little area here, which is our CPU load meter. And it tells us how much CPU power we're using in the system currently. And if it gets to be like 89 or something, you may want to turn the quality of the amount of CPU power that your reverb is using. And if you have enough power in the machine, you may want to go to high power. That way, you get to use the full amount of your CPU to actually help it use more of the calculations required to create a great reverb. So there are a lot of logarithms, actually, equations that are used to create reverbs. And I prefer to use a high quality, keep my computer way up so I can use a high quality reverb so the reflective surfaces sound more natural when you're actually using a reverb. And next we have our diffusion here, and we'll play this back. Level low. You have the freeze. See how we freeze? We just cut the whole reverb out. And the next here we have density. How dense the reverb is. Then we have scale, and then we have one of the most important parts, I feel, is the wet and dry. So you want to make sure you have this balance between the wet signal and the dry signal, so we can get this perceived image of what's going on in the room, and then how much of it's wet is dry will tell you how far away we are from the surface of that room, or the surfaces actually of the room. And you can always change this. It's 100% right there. I'll bring it down to 80. Sometimes you want to have a closed room or a wide room. It could be like really just short in area. That means I can have the music could be in the middle, but the surfaces are more wider on the outside or left and right, or I can even have it spin if I want to. And then finally we have this thing which is the chorus, which provides some sort of chorus effect, which is almost a detuning effect that you have within the verb. Now I suggest you check out a lot of these parameters. There are a lot of parameters here that you can see, and go slowly through it and understand what's going on with the reverb. Okay, so now I want to load up some instruments. I'm going to load this instrument up here, which is my keys dreamer. It's a piano. Okay, and then we also have, right here, I want to load up for us, we're going to get a MIDI instrument. Now, for our MIDI effects, and we're going to get the arpeggiator here. Now I get this arpeggiator. If I put it, see what happens if I go here to the right. Live gives me a warning. It says right there on the bottom, insert MIDI effects before instrument. Well, we got to do it before the instrument. It's important to do it before the instrument. So we'll do it right now before the instrument. We're right here before the instrument, and there it is. See it change? No more warning, and now we can put it there. Now the reason why that is because I'll be playing the keyboard, and so it needs to see it because it is a MIDI effect. So once it sees the notes I'm going to play, the arpeggiator will then act upon the notes. Let's say, okay, this should go here, that should go here, this should go here. We should repeat so many times. This is the rate. And then it'll tell the keys dreamer how to play it. And it'll say, okay, I interpreted this is my MIDI data coming back to me, and I'll play it the way that the arpeggiator has suggested to play. So the arpeggiator has its own functions, obviously. And we can see here, we've got parameters up and down, coverage, so a bunch going on here. And then we have the groove, straight, 8, swing 16, 6, 32. We have a hold button here as well. So let me see how some of the stuff works here. Here, we can choose a sequence of notes that'll happen in a rhythmic pattern. For example, here's up. So if I take this pattern, here's up, and it's synced, here's up, I'll just press up. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Just playing a chord there. There's a minor chord. I'm changing the notes there from C, E, G to C, E flat, G. And then also go to here. We can go down. Okay, with my minor and major chord again. And then we have our up down. A little bigger chord here now. So we've got a bigger chord, 4-note chord there. It's going up and down that chord. And to do that, it just recognizes the notes and it goes up and down because it's an arpeggiator. Then we also have down and up, as you can see. So down first and up. Down, up, right? So down and up right there. Down and up. Excellent. Perfect. Next, we've got to go here to converge. And I'm going to go to converge right here. So it's our converge, so it's converging on it. So what else we have? We have diverge. So you see there are many different patterns we can actually have here. And we can also shift and transpose those patterns as well. We can do a major scale. As I can say major, I can hold down a minor note here. So it's forcing it to be major, no matter what I do here. I'm holding down a minor, E minor, and still forcing it to be major there. So it's important to realize that this effect can do a lot. Now it also has a gate on here. Now this gate control sets the length of the note in the pattern. So my length could be, I make it a little short here. A little short length, and I go like this. That's very short length there. So it's a little short, seeing the new note there, the rate. So I can do it here, make it longer. And then the arpeggiator sinks it in and it makes each note longer according to the gauge size. Here it's at 145%. Now also right here we have our rate. So the arpeggiator will play a pattern of notes at a speed of this rate. So make it faster or slower, obviously. So I'll go here. And now I'm going to change the rate a little faster here. That's slow actually, here. Okay, so that's 1 to 1. Everyone's 1 to 8. And we go to 1 to 128. This is much faster. This is too fast, right? So here we go. And I'm going to go right back here. I'm going to go to 1 to 32. So it's very quick, very quick, very quick. So let's change the rate, which is the speed. And speed, now go a little higher. Oh, let's go down a little more. And 16. So we got 16 also there. So let's close the race. Now we also have repeat. Now to repeat, use the repeat parameter to set the pattern of repeat, you know, like to a specific number of times it's going to repeat over and over. And the infinite means going to be, well, forever. So repeat here was infinite. So I can go back here. I may only want to have it happen just a few, not that many times, but we'll say 2, 3 times. See? And it stops. So this repeat, you can control the amount of times it will repeat. Now also here, we have the beat. So I can say to the beat itself. We'll go back to here, and it's 2. So it changes the beat. I can do it to note. So, and we do it off as well. So we can do beat, note. And here in sync, we can do sync, we do it free as well. So this is a free idea here. So free, you can use this button to choose whether to sync arpeggiator rate to the song tempo or calibrate the milliseconds. I can either calibrate the milliseconds on the song tempo. So it depends on, you know, what the setting is for the song, or calibrate the the milliseconds in the delay, rather than in the arpeggiator. So there are many features here. We also have major to minor, which you saw before earlier, major, minor, and shift. And we also have here a key. You can pick a key you want to use. And what else we have here? We also have step, where this control will set the number of times a pattern is transposed. So that's in terms of steps. But what you do is like check this out to really get item to use, particularly in using club music or even using some hip hop, and you want to learn more about it. Check it out. You can also see stuff right here in the help area right here for info view, and you'll get more info that you can see as you put your cursor there. But check it out. It's really great arpeggio. I love it a lot. Now I'm going to do some work with MIDI effects some more. Now the last lesson was about arpeggiator. This one's about using chord. Now we're going to grab the MIDI effect chord and put it right here with our keys. Now remember, you can't put it behind. It's a MIDI effect, so it's got to go in front of the instrument. Okay? We're in front of the instrument right here. Now what happens here, this shift knob allows me to add one note according to how many semitones I select, up to 36 semitones up or down. So here, for example, if I play the key of C and I play 2 semitones up, that's going to be C sharp D. So that's going to be D. I'm going to just hit the C note. Now it's playing C and D at the same time. So it's helping me make a chord out. So here, let's try something else. Let's go up here. We're going to go up 4 semitones now, and this should be E. That's C and E. Now, the next one here, I'm going to do this here, next one, I got an idea to do 7. So I'm going to do 7 semitones up. Let me count that out now. That's going to be G. That's a C, E, G major chord, right? So I want to probably add a bass in that chord. So I want to go down 5 semitones. I'm going to go down here, 5. That's going to give me a G in the bottom of the chord. There you go. I'm just playing one, I'm playing C. And then this chord plug-in here, which is a MIDI effect, is allowing me to make a chord up by programming, of course, these shift buttons here, which makes it real cool, real easy to do. Now, I don't think I could probably do here. I want to do something else. I want to bring in a scale. And I'm going to bring this thing here to major scale. And put that there too. So you see, we can put another MIDI effect right next to each other. We just can't put it after any instruments. It's obvious, right? So this is a C major scale I brought in here. So no matter what I play, it's always going to make everything go to a C. It's going to maintain that musical idea of the C major scale. So each musical key is represented by its a column, for example. And you know, here we got C, and this would be D, E, F, G, A, B. So only back up to C, which is right here. You got me? Of course, my bass here is C, so the bass of my scale. So the bass parameter shifts the origin of the scale. And this could also be done by redrawing each step. So I can go right here and go to here and go to there. See that? I can redraw each step if I like to within this scale parameter. This is kind of complicated if you trying to do it at home, but just go over it slowly and you'll get a hold of it. So now, for example, I can play notes here. So it allows me to play these notes in the scale. And of course, I can turn this off and I'll play a note. If I play C sharp, it's still playing C. See that? I'm playing C sharp. It's still playing C. So it's forcing it to say, well, look, I know you played C sharp, but I'm going to play C anyway. Here's D. Won't do that. See? So I play that note right there where it's at. So you got to be aware where it's at. So you'll have to play D. So I put D back in. See? It just flattened it out totally. So you got to be aware of how it does when it forces the scale in. So it's important to be aware of that. So I'm going to take this out again and pull it back in. And you see it right there? So we got... Just tell you which one I'm playing. So C, D, E. If I play this, it's still, that C sharp still forcing it there. So you get an idea of what's happening here. So what I can do here now, I've got my chord going on here, and I'm going to play this first C. That's the C major chord. That's the D minor chord. That's an E minor chord. That's an F major chord. So what's happening here is that it's playing it in the scale of C, and each chord I'm playing are from that scale. So it's keeping me right there within the harmony of the music, if I was playing some music along with it, of course. Now we can also do here, I can pull up an arpeggiator. Let's pull an arpeggiator out of nowhere here and drag and drop this thing right in here. So we got several MIDI effects going on here. We've got the chord, the scale, and the arpeggiator. So I'm going to do the arpeggiator here. I'm going to set the style here to converge and diverge. I'll keep this at straight here for the groove. Keep my sync on. I'm going to get my ratio to about 16ths, right? Let's go back. Yeah, right there. 16ths are good. I'm going to keep my gate there at 50 is good. And the target, let me see. The target here, turn this on. I'm going to get my target to about 2. Well, let's get back. Okay, there we go. That's pretty good. All right, back to 2. That's good. And let me see something. That's real good. I like that. So we have this capability here. We're running everything with steps and speed and time. And if what I want to do maybe too here is that just keep this off a little bit. I don't know if how many repeats are going on. Let me just one. So sort of arpeggiating right along here with the whole idea. And this is just to give you an idea what we can do. And we got a shift happening here. I got my gate. And where's my decay? Let's get my decay down somewhere here. I want to bring the decay maybe up to about 2. Yeah, right about there. That's pretty good. Good. And what I've done here also, I've sort of like made a little MIDI parameters here. I got this little note thing going on. Got some notes there. And I also did my homework, and I got a little loop going on here, which is right here. And now I'm going to try and just get this thing playing. So I can make that music just like that. It's amazing, right? So you can do many things with this great software, and that's just one of them. Looping is something that we do a lot today when picking up drum rhythms or bass lines or keyboards or guitars. Sometimes I just want to loop a section up of a song. Some DJs will, just to have that for a background to do a mix in a club. Well, looping has become big in the last 25, 30 years or so, and more like 25 years, I'd say. And looping is really big. So in live, looping has been really a great feature because I think it's become pop because of that. And looping, you can pick any loop, but you see right, I have a loop right here, or any sample, and if it ends are chopped off perfectly well, you can loop it. And then live, you can loop several things together at once. It'll even audition potential loops at the same speed as a loop that would be currently playing. So what live does, it analyzes it, and it makes a file of it. So I'm going to show you this right now, actually. There's a file here, we'll see, where we have this file here I have from a session, and this is the original file I saved from the song. But right here we have a file which is called the wave.asd, which is an analysis of the sound. And what it does, it actually analyzes all these peaks and valleys here with the transients. That's where these big lines come up, and they write little lines here. It measures them periodically. So it says, this is this far, it's that far, it must be this tempo. Or this is from here to here, and it's that big, must be 2 measures long. So the software is really great, and it has some other elements within the sample of warping that they use that help you. I will explain some of that right now. So here we're going to launch right now. I've got launch right. We're going to launch the sampler section. Here we go. The sampler's right here. And here's our warp right here. So without warp, our samples really don't warp. They don't play at all well at all. And we've got a sample in here. Let's turn some of this level down and play the sample back. see in that sample there, you can see his original speed is 128, but the speed of the session is 128, right? This is 121, the session is 128. So as I start to slow this down, and you'll hear that it's really accurate. The live is making it really sound good. Ableton's done a really great job with it because it's not really getting these kind of artifacts. You get these kind of noises between sounds. But the slower you go with it, and you hear that noise coming in where it's almost adding a little bit of noise between each beat, like, because it sort of separate these beats out. It knows what the transients are, but when you stretch out too far, it can't make up for the difference between the spaces because I'm really getting way too far away from the original tempo of this sample. And what they've done here, well, first of all, let's explain this too. When you're working with samples, you will work with, he'll say beats. You're going to check out beats, that's going to work with samples totally, right? And we go here, it says transient. So I can pick on the bars or whatever. Once you transient, this means that it's going to pick the transients out where they are in this sample. And here what it does, it has this thing where it says forwards and backwards. Here, I'm going to go right back to here. And this first one is just a forwards idea. So here, this first one is sort of like off. So each segment plays to its and then end, and then the next one stops. So it starts. So it stops and starts at this point. It's hard to explain, but check this out. I'll play it back. I'll pull it back even more. So it's sort of like just doing something weird there, right? So what happens there with this is that it's sort of like a position where the loop forwards. So each segment plays to its end and then loops forward. So it plays to end and loops a little bit, so it loops a little bit forward. That little piece of the end goes forward, that one, right? And this next one here is this one right here. Now this one here is that the loop goes forward and then it sort of like adds a little piece to it to go even further with it, so it gets up that other another loop. So it wants to go forward until it catches up to the other end of the next section, next piece of it. So we'll play this back. So that little noise, artifacts, that little weird noise goes on there, right? And then we got the last one here, which is actually the best one here. And what this does is this last one here actually looks at it and says, okay, it's going to go backwards and forward. So if it moves forward, it's going to try and get a piece of the one in front to grab hold of it so it can move forward with it. And that way it sort of like gets it going. Instead of keeping the front piece going at the end of that little piece, it sort of like stretches it out on both sides of this little transient that it's doing it on. So we'll hear it back right now. Still a lot of noise there. I can move it up somewhat here. That's not bad there for as far down as we've come, because we're actually at 128. So if I go down here and say, if I can go to 80, this would be amazing. Still some transient noise going on there. Still happening there, but it's way better. Now if I get where I was at in near there with this thing, now I'm actually at 128. So I go back to 128 and you'll hear it. So it did a lot to actually get it down to when I was at 107 to still maintain the original sound quality and to keep it going as a one steady loop. That was pretty good. And that's how you sort of work with loops with drum patterns. It makes it much easier that way. Now what you can also do, for example, let's see, I'm going to go to here. Let's stop that loop. And this one here. It's got a little bass line going there. And what I can do here with bass, I go for tones. So here I would use tones in here. And everything's set like a grain of sand. So it's doing these little small elements going on within this saving and keeping that presence of it as it starts to go higher or lower in tempo and doesn't get too far away, doesn't degrade so much. We get these artifacts happening inside the sample. So here, for example, I'll play this, and we'll go to here and play this little. here or there, it's sort of like just trying to hold on to it and maintain it. So I'm going to go right back up here, make it 80 again, closer there, and play it again. You hear over here? So what happens? It provides this rough control over the average grain size used. So the actual grain size is determined like in the signal dependent away. So that means if it stops, then okay, what it saw was this little bit of size, this piece of that whole tone that was happening. So for signals with clear pitch contour, small grain sizes work best. And large values help avoid artifacts that can occur when the pitch contour is unclear. So the whole idea is you see small, and here's small sounds, so we're going to get down to here. So you can hear that what's happening. It's sort of like it's coming into the and that helps out a lot. Now there's also another setting we have here, which is texture and repitch and repitch stuff and get better textures out of some elements. For example, here I might get some better textures, and here in textures you'll see that it's sort of based on time warping with textures will be a mode for polyphonic. So that means if I got something that's like, a chord I'm playing, and it's like, there's keyboard chords, it'll help me to keep that polyphonic texture intact. And this will be repitch. And complex is a little more complex, but Complex Pro is the latest thing they have now, which is in Ableton Live 8. And it's really cool. So here in Complex, what it does, it works great with songs, for example. So I'm going to turn this off and go to the song here. It's keeping it intact there. It's a really great way to work with it. You can grab a whole song, bring it in there, and you can actually keep that pitch floating up and down. So I suggest you experiment with it, work with it, and we're going to do more in the next lesson and get really in depth with using warp. Right here, I'm going to play the loop and beat and just watch what I'm going to do here. Okay, when I find a section on the playback, I'm going to play from. I think I'm going to do it from right here. So this is going to be my first transient here. So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to find a loop and make a loop up. So to zoom in there, I'm going to press the plus key, and I'm zooming right into the beat. I'm going to come right in this beat here. You'll notice that there are triangles right here, and these are recognizing transients within the beat. That means there are peaks and valleys. Of course, it's 0. This is 0. If it crosses here and it starts to rise up, these are transient here. This is a little peak. And I wrote that little piece there, which is called a transient. You put your cursor there, and the info window explains. Great software. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over a little bit. So I'm trying to get this little thing to go over a little bit here, and I'm trying to grab it and move it, which I really can't do. So I'm going to try and move it right close to it. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because the grid is off. I can press Command 4, get my grid back, and watch what happens. It's going to move according to the grid. So I press Command 4 again, and it's not going to move to the grid. I can just get it right up on it, right there. Oops, way back a little bit. I can zoom in tighter, because I want to get it right where the transient crosses the, right there. It's perfect for me. That's it. So now if I want to stay there, I got this idea to stay there. I'm going to go back out here with my minus button. Just hold it down a little bit and get my little ends going on here. I can have the end from one end to the next. So I just want to get this loop and bring it as close to that as possible. And next thing I want to do is I want to zoom back in. And we'll zoom back in. So I'm going to drag the loop again and get it real close to where I want to have this loop in at. Right there, I believe. Now I'm looking at it real tight now. I got to get really zoom in. See, you got to zoom in real tight, see where you're at, get to where you're going. And I'm right there in the transient. That's good. So now I'm going to zoom back out. I'm going to hold down my minus key again. I want to get the back end. So the back end from here is somewhere. Try it again. I got it. I want to come right there. So I want to start it right here. So now I want to drag this in closer. I know what I'm going to do right now. It's just for you to see that last one. I'm just trying to just get it real close. Now, when you press this plus key and zoom in, it's zooming in on this orange line right there. That's my little insert marker position, okay? So I'm gonna go right here. I'm gonna bring this closer to that, so I'm gonna get right up on it here. And I see, so it's really here, so I wanna go, see? Right before that next beat comes in. So now, I wanna move the zoom marker over. I can just move my right arrow, hold that down. Oops, that's moving the mark, it's moving that one, see? So you gotta make sure where you are. I'm here, that's the zoom marker now. Now, once it's been selected, you notice there was no more. If I grab here, it's a little black triangle on top. That means that's gonna move if I move the right arrow. If I grab here on the little marker right there, this marker right there, then what happens is that my insert marker now becomes the point of reference, and now I can just move that over. Since I press Command 4, then it will not snap to the grid. And I'll just move right over here and make sure, yep, that's the next reference. That's where I want to be. So I'm going to zoom in here closely. Okay, to 0. So I want to get to the 0. So we're trying to get to the 0 point, and that should be right about there. Okay, so now I'm going to zoom back out, and we're going to play it from the top. Not bad. And that's how we can loop a phrase. So you can take any little beat you got and sort of loop it. And what happens here in live is that it sits up there and says, okay, well, you know something? We're going to need to see where these transients, we're going to see where everything's at here. And it does. And so I can zoom back in here, and we see here in the beginning, for example, if I move this cursor over, I move this marker, I'm going to set it to the grid, so I'm going to press Command 4, so it snaps to the grid and moves over faster. There we go. And we see it right there. It's little triangles, but notice here, this triangle is right inside here, so it thinks this is a little transient. It isn't. And we'll get rid of that next. It's pretty good with looping. Next, I want to explain some transient problems. The software recognizes every little thing that goes on. And sometimes it sees this little piece that's starting to peek back up right there. It thinks it's a transient, but it really isn't. So to correct that, you go to here and we'll click on it. See, you click on it right there? And then that says that's my transient. I'll click on it again, it turns black. Now I'll press the delete button, it deletes. And now what appears there is my insert marker. I can move that along. Now it's going to the grid now, as you can see. I'll press my right arrow, it's going in the grid, so it's going to the next point. And right here's the next one. So I'm going to go backwards here. That's not really on the grid, so I'm going to go hit this transient right here. Turns black, cut that out. Now, I want you to do this all the time. You need to make sure that when you are creating this new loop and you're trying to get it working properly, you need to look over the loop and see what the transients are in the loop, no matter what you're doing, and get an idea, well, where am I here? Is it going to fit there? Is this a good transient? Is it proper? I just look it over, see what's going on. The same thing here again. So I go to here, hit that twice, delete. And you can work pretty quickly once you figure out what you're doing. And I'm going to go back here again. I might stretch this out a little bit more to get a little bigger view. Then just grab it and move back further, and I can see where there are peaks and valleys, and look at them. This one here. So once you get really good at it, you can really get something done here. And then once you move it, you know you moved it because the insert marker appears there. I got two of them here, so this one, get rid of this one, and this one. And this one. And move it a little bit more. We've got a couple here. So I'm going to get rid of this one. And this one. So when you look through it, you're going to see where they are. If you're watching me, you're probably noticing I'm just looking at how the beat looks. I'm saying, well, look, I got to get rid of these things here. And as I do, I'm just going across it, seeing where I'm at. I might stretch it out even wider points and see, well, is that right? This looks like it's off here, so I wanted to see if that was right. Grab that. So as I keep removing them, the insertion marker appears there as well. And you can do this pretty quickly once you get the hang of it. And you're pretty good at it, you'll say, well, I can do this real fast. But this is important, because then when you want to slow the beat down, you want to make sure, or speed the beat up, you want to make sure that Ableton Live recognizes it, or where all these transients are. So, okay, Now I slow it down. I say, okay, I know all the transients, so I can slow it down for you. I'm going to slow it down for you right now, buddy. And it slows it down and say, wow, it sounds good. That's important because you're doing a music mix. You're trying to say, wait, I want to make myself sound great for the crowd or just for the label or whatever. It's important to have a great sounding beat and a great sounding loop all the time. I think I'm almost done here. Yep, and then when you're all done, and you got the size, you're like, this sounds pretty good. Say, I like that. That sounds pretty good. And everything's right on there. I have no need to play it back. Well, let's go back to here. Yep, it's perfect from that point. Now, if I like at this point here, I'm going to put my cursor there. And it's time for me to crop it. So I'm going to crop sample. And what it does, it chops that sample up into one piece. Now, let me undo that. Now, sometimes you do this. You may not really want to do this. You say, wait a minute, I cropped the sample. I might have a mistake or something. What happens if something goes wrong? And you still got both ends. You want to keep the whole sample. Here's what I do. I take this sample here. I copy it. I go duplicate. I copied it right there, right? Now I take this sample right here. That's good. Hit this one here. That's okay. So now I can crop it. So I go back in here. I right click. And I remember my crop. My crop is right here. Press crop. It cropped it. Got my sample to full size. And I can still listen back to it and then keep the original. And that's how you do it. This way, when the transients work together and you're going to warp and you loop it, it works perfect. Worked out pretty good. We're able to get that sample right. I want to show another thing now. We're going to go back here to the sample we just cut into a clip here. And what we're going to do here is I can play it back. I know it's working perfect. What you need to do right now is, since you got it going right, and you like the way it sounds, is to save it. Now right here in the sample clip, you'll see next to launch is sample, and below that we have save. So you press save right there. And we make sure we save that little piece just made up there, so we have it. And we still have the main piece that came from the overall sample here, that we chopped out of that, that's still there too. I have to keep both going on in case I want to go back and sort of re-edit it. And sometimes you may have to re-edit. If you got some live drummer playing, the guy's playing live, that human feel's not consistent with a metronome. It never really is. So that's really good though. But sometimes you want to get maybe 90% or 85% of the beat just really locked in sequence-wise, because you may want to take the sample itself or the loop itself and place it somewhere else in the track. Or make sure it falls in line with everything else, so when you move it, it has the same feel as it does in the same section, no matter where you move that whole entire section at. Meaning that if we have the bass, the guitar, the drums, and the singer, it's a band, and they're all playing live, we're going to make sure that this section here remains in the same section that is with every other instrument. So, to correct any problems you might have, though, it's trying to quantize it. Let's say you want to go in further, and you want to get deeper into this track. So, I would click here. I want to press my plus button. I'm pressing the plus button, getting closer and closer. I want to go back out a little bit more. And you might see some transients that are like a little bit away from the line, where they're like not really on it. As you can see, some of them aren't really on the line. So it's hard to quantize it that way, you know? They're not really on the line. So what we can do here, we can tell it, well, look, this is kind of hard to go around and move all these transients around and make them snap to the grid. But we want to make the sample file snap to the grid. That way it's elastic. You know, you can stretch it and you can tighten it up, and it maintains the same groove principles according to BPMs and chord notes and eighth notes. So you can just, hey, it'll fit. Here's how we do it. I notice in this whole track, everything here is more than an eighth note or 16th note. So I want to quantize this thing. So I'm going to set my quantize value up here. I'm going to go down. I guess I should probably be at 16th. You see 16th right there. Everything's near 16th that you can see now. This is always important to me to make sure everything's near 16th, or I can find a better value. So I always try to make sure I find the right value that's going to match for what I'm doing. It's very important to do that. So I'll go back to here again. And maybe it is the 32nd I'm looking for to have it, but not too much more than that. But I think not much of the 16th, I think it is. So this isn't too bad. So from here, I'm looking to see where everything's at in terms of 16th notes and how they're going to fit in here. And we're almost pretty much there. So what I'm going to do next is I will So up here, I'm gonna probably zoom out a little bit, and then I got this whole area here selected here, and what I want to do with this loop is I want to probably go in and quantize it. So I'm gonna pull up here and I'm gonna pull up quantize. And it's grabbing the whole thing there, so I don't want that. So let's go back here again. What I really want to do is just get this one area. But see what happened? It put all these little transient levels right there, so it'll help everything fit properly. So no matter what, I just need to quantize it and get it right. But this is what I'm not going to do, so undo this. But what I would do is I would probably click in here, and then I would say, let's quantize to a setting. I'm going to do the other one, the original sample, this one here. So I want to take this sample here and do it with this. So I've got the full sample size there. I'll go to here. I'll go to quantize and quantize settings this time. Now see, it's set for 16th and it's about 90%. What's about the amount I want to do? I don't want to be too perfect, but perfect enough so that the feel will be there and I can still make it snap to the grid no matter what. It'll be elastic with the tempo if I change the tempo a little bit, and at the same time, it'll still have that human feel. So I think I'll go for this, and I'll press OK. And see what happened? It made everything fit to its current place, at least everything right across to the transient. If you don't like that, you can always go undo, go back again. I go here like this, I'll say, okay, let me do this. Let me go back in, and let's try another grid level. So I'll try to experiment all the time. Let's get the right size, get the right feel going on. I'll do this. Okay, let's try this from here. Then I go back in, and I'll select settings again, and I may go to 32nd. I'll try that. And I'll view it closer, and I'll scroll through it. And I see everything's been set right up on its own. So almost everything's on a grid now. See that? Everything is snapped to the grid. That was a transient. So the work we did before worked out well, and now they're all snapped to the grid. Every little transient snapped to the grid. And it makes it much more elastic. And that's how we do it when we're trying to get everything perfect and snap to the grid. And we do this by going to quantize or quantize setting, set it up, and then listen to it. See how it sounds. You're done and you got everything ready to go, and you want to mix some stuff up, you need to automate. And this is going to be more about automating within the mix, but I want you to see how the automation parameters work and how we can automate the mix a little bit. So for one, you see here I've got this diamond next to the master, and I can turn that diamond on and we can see some of the parameters we have available to us. Here we have a mixer, show automation, and here we have volume, and we see more automation. So the controls that have been automated are in red, you can see right there. So that's already automated there. Track panning hasn't been automated. Speaker on hasn't, which is actually like mute on, off. And we have song tempo, global groove amount, and crossfade. Now I'll just close this up for a second. And I'm gonna go up here to drums. Now on the drums, you'll notice here, this is the drum track right here. It is a MIDI file, obviously. And we're gonna go back here and look at some of the devices here. So you have a composite drum kit, this is the instrument. And here we have a repeat beat. All right, so this is another here. This is another device we have right here as well. So the repeat beats, so repeat it right here, and we do some other elements here as well. So I can probably automate some of this stuff where it says interval, offset, grid. So we'll go back to drums now, here in the mix, and I'm gonna go right here. And here we can see all the different parameters that we can automate. Now at the bottom it says show automated parameters. So to show the ones that have already been automated. I'll go to here, and you'll see it right there. That's the one. That's already been automated. So I see that one, I click on it, and now we see it's track panning. See that? Now I could say, okay, that's good. So that's real good. I press a plus button, I moved it down and open another lane up. So another lane here, automation lane we call this, all right? Here's one lane, here's a second lane. So I may want to automate something else. I go back here, I want to show all parameters. I go here, I'm looking for a parameter to automate. So let's say we want to automate the reverb. And that shows up there. I can say, okay, plus sign. And now reverb is right here. So I'm picking parameters I can automate within this mix. And if I have a effect, as you see there on the track, any parameter on that effect can be automated. I can see I have reverb. That can be automated as well. Now, the reason why I added that's in the drum mix. Here, we have the entire track here, as you can see. These are drums. I'll click here. We have a drum mix going on here. Let's go back to here. If I want to automate this, I can probably click on here. See this little line here? I'll click on that line. I'll double click the line. Now, it's blue on one side, red on the other. See that? I click here again. It's providing me with breakpoints. I put breakpoints in this. So I can grab here, pull down, sort of lock into the grid now. See what it's doing? It's sort of like making its little movements there. I move it out. It's either on or off. So this is on. This is on here. Then here it goes down. It's off. Then it's back on again. And this is for the reverb mixer. So it's on off. I make a breakpoint here again. Breakpoint here again. I just pull down. I made another one right there. So we have these levels that we can set, and some of them can be just like this. Now also we have this panning going on. So I can click on panning here, and I click on it twice, and you see here we can put a little breakpoint there as well. And I could put one here and one here, and I move this across. Oh, there's no off and on here. We either go left or right. So that's 50% left, or right rather, and this is 50% left. See that? So the pan is going this way, then coming back across here to 50% left, and right here, we're back in the center again. Now, another way to do this actually is to draw it in. I can go here, for example, and draw this pattern in and say, well, I want to do something different. To go to here, and see, it's actually doing it to the grid now. So I may not want that. So I'm going to do it to a finer grid than this. So what I might end up doing is I'll go to like Command 1. I get to the finest grid. I go to Command 2 for the largest one. So I hit Command 2 twice. It's the large grid. So that's a big grid. So watch this. I can only move like this in these large increments. But if I press Command and go to 1 a couple times, that's my small grid increment. And so it happens here. I get a little beep sound telling me that's the smallest we can go. So you can see you can do that right here. See? So I can do the smaller increments. But what I can also do, we're going to do this. What we can also do is that we can remove the entire grid. So we'll press Command 4. Now the grid's gone. Now, so freehand. I have the free ability to move this pencil up and down to create my own level that I like to have. When I'm through with it, I can see I'm through with this here. And now you'll see there are a bunch of breakpoints here, all marked along this line that I drew with the pencil. So these are ways that we can actually change the mix of certain sounds or certain parameters actually within your mix. For example, here we did the mixer, the track, pan. We also changed the reverb level. So as you're mixing, you can say, I want to change something here. Change it, experiment, and see how it works. Now, in the process of doing this, my system crashed out, and I just noticed something here, that Ableton brought the whole session back just the way it was. It was really great to have. I was amazed that it did this. Now I'm going to pull this back here. See, I've got to report a crash. So it actually crashed a little bit. But I noticed one thing that did happen here. If I report that, if I want to, I know the software actually did that. It kept the automation. So it crashed. It kept the automation. Then it came back and said, hey, do you want to bring back the automation that you were using before it crashed? So it actually holds onto that data if you do crash, and you get it right back. It was pretty good. Loved it. Totally great. So anyway, we're back. As you can see, we did some automation moves right here. And as I said before, we've got these lanes. And once you make an automation move, you might like it. And if not, you can always undo it. Now, see, I still have the undos also as well after it crashed. So they're still there. And if I like an automation, I can pretty much keep it and save it. Or in this case, I can minus the lane is gone to clear up some more room. So automation lanes also appear for the master track. Now here at the master track, we have the track volume up, and you'll notice here that we have the mixer and the track volume, and I could show all parameters. So it's only going to show parameters, as I said before, that have been edited. So we're going to go to show all automation, and we show all automation, and now I go back here, and we're going to get a list of some stuff. And we have a compressor. So it's a compressor on the track as well. So for this compressor, I have some automation to do, and here it is. For this device, I have a device on. We have threshold level. I can change the knee. So I can do a lot of stuff here, actually, and just edit any parameter that is in a plugin, any of these audio effects or a MIDI effect, and they all are provided with automation lanes. Now, for example, I can get here, and I could say plus again. It'll make a lane for that parameter for the compressor device on. I can go back here again and say, that looks pretty good. So I go here, I'll say, compressor, choose the compressor. Now I'll see all the lanes. So when I get here, when I choose it here, then my full sub menu comes out right here. I can go to the knee and say, plus, add the lane for that one. So I can keep adding lanes here, and each lane can be edited the same way as we said before. You can click on it, and you get a breakpoint. And once you do click on it, get a breakpoint, you'll see that there's breakpoints in the lane. You can move a lane up or down. In this case, we can change the knee up to 15 dB or back down to 0 dB of that compressor. But you see the compressor right here as well too. So I can have it automated. Let's say I want to change the threshold level. Let's go from up to down. You see it move right there, and you see me moving the threshold level. And I say I just want to do that right there like that. So I can just take the threshold level and move it up and down as well. I'll say, well, I'm going to go from here to there. And as I do, you see it actually automates on the compressor itself right here. Now, if you want to get rid of lanes, once the lanes appear, you can just press the minus button, again, here, and the lanes are gone. And we're able to go back to it again. We go on a different pad, go here to the pad. And we have mixer lanes here. So this is for a mixer, as you can see there. And it says show automated parameters, so we're seeing that right here. And I could press fader. I can press ambience. And ambience is a device. Pull it up right here, and there's ambience. I can go here, I can click on the pad actually, and once I click on that pad, we're going to see the device that's in the track here, that you can see. And then I can go back to the ambience, and then I can get the submenu, which gives me all the parameters that I can also edit for the ambience, which is actually this great reflective surface here we've got going on, with a little reverb too, as you can see right there. And we can get to the shelf, the high cut, low cut, the filter, EQ, the filter width. Every parameter is here. Chorus amount, chorus rate, chorus on, decay time, density. We can freeze it or not, freeze on or freeze off, cut off or on. We can even do the room size. Put the parameter in, click plus, and make room for the next lane. This is pretty easy and pretty simple. If not, you can always draw it in, or you can add breakpoints to anywhere you want. So I'm going to turn this up. There's a breakpoint. Move it to here, breakpoint, bring this down to here, and we've made some automation moves. Listen back to it, say, I'm not too sure what I'm going to do with it. You can check it out in the mix as well and see how it sounds. It's really a great system. I can go to here. I could solo it. I can say start from here and start it. And listen back to the mix. So that's how we can work the automation parameters in the master and in our regular tracks as well. Remember, you can always minus or plus a lane. You can get rid of it. And to show any lanes that you haven't automated already, or show all the automated lanes, you can go right here and you'll see them all. And they'll be marked with a red square to the immediate left. To edit automation, once you've done editing some parts in your mix, it's pretty simple. And we're going to explain how that works right now. Like here, for example, we have these breakpoints. If I want to get rid of one, I go to it and double click on it, it's gone. Double click here, it's gone. If I want to bring it back, of course, I can do undo and undo again. So it makes it easier to get rid of these breakpoints. Very easy. Now what I can also do here is that I can command, click, drag. So I can command, click, and drag. And if I do this, see what happens? I can move in small increments. I can move in, let's say, from minus 18.2 dB to minus 18.1 to 17.9 to 7 to 6, 5, 4. But if I let go, I can move in larger increments. So this gives you the ability to adjust your mix. Let's say you think it should be 4 dB up or just 0.2 dB up in volume. Let's say for your volume for your drums in one section. So you say you press Command, you click, and you drag up just slightly. And you can move in very small increments. To move in larger ones, as I said before, you just let go and you pull straight down and you're moving it in large increments. Now sometimes I may have to edit a range. Let's say I'm in this could be the verse. Say I click here and drag across and I have a range I'm editing. So this is a range I'm dealing with right now. And so this area to here I may need to edit. Let's say I'm gonna click here and edit from there over to here. So as you can see, the various parts of the grid will turn yellow that you drag the mouse over, where the breakpoints are in the edit window, particularly in the automation lanes here. Now if I want to move these items in the lane, I just dragged over it, I can just press click and move up and down. See? I can move up and down the lane, but notice also here, at the very end, there's no click. So I can say go to here, I might put an automation or breakpoint right here, then I'll drag over the lane again. Now from here, I can move up or down. And I'm moving up or down with an anchor at one end or the other. And I can move this automation up a little bit or move it down as well, in increments as well. Now it doesn't move side to side. So to move side to side, I just press Shift, grab a breakpoint. Let's go back to here. I'll press Shift, grab a paint point. I can move it side to side. See that? We're moving it side to side now. So we can move these breakpoints anywhere we want to and move them side to side. That's really cool. I like that a lot. And I can also copy and paste. So I want an automation that happens here on the chorus. I got a drum break I made up. Okay, I like the drum break. I want it to happen again at the same part, but on the first chorus, not just on the last chorus. I'll just go here and press copy, Command C, or Control C on your PC. I'll go to the area I want to copy in. I'll move my insert marker right there, and I'll press paste. As you can see, the automation is paste and copy there. Now, if I want to duplicate it again, I can press this duplicate, which is Command D on your PC and Control D on your PC, and Command D on your Mac, excuse me. And that's how you can do it. So I can undo this, and undo that. And I'm back to normal again. Now, sometimes we need to suspend the mix. I mean, suspend the automation of that mix, or suspend any parameter in the mix. And what you can do, you go back over here, as you can see. I go right here, and this is my track anchor. And here I've got this button here, which is my audio level right there. I can click on that, and you notice that the gray part, this part turns gray right in the corner. So I clicked on it there, and you'll notice too that the automation line lane has gone from this pinkish red to brown now. So now the automation on this particular track called pad is suspended, and it'll perform to whatever I put here for a new value. I put something else there, it'll be that value until I click on it again or click out of it, click back in the window, and I can go here to where I have this red button over here. This is my override button here. I click right here, it's back to arrangement, click here, and you'll notice that it's stopped. There's no more gray little square box here in that meter. And the lane is turned from brown back to this pinkish red there, with, of course, our anchors as well. So these are some of the many ways you can actually edit and fix your automation data once you've done it, and then maybe just adjust it slightly to get the mix you want. Well, we've got our automation set up. It's time for us to export the audio file. That's what we normally call in the business a bounce. We're going to bounce down, take all this audio, bounce it down to a 2-track stereo, and we got a little file we can use to burn a CD, which I haven't done in years, or to make a little quick file for iTunes, or any other company that actually you can sell your song out or send to friends. So, first we got to select an area. Now I select the whole area I want to use for my loop. Now we'll go back here, we got this loop bracket here, we extend it out to the beginning. And here, you can see we have the beginning and the end right there, right? So I want to come here, and I want to click right there. What happens here is telling me that I see that black line there in the loop bracket on top. That's the area we're trying to bounce down and export as an audio file. Next, we're going to go to the File menu. We're going to select Export Audio and Video. And this dialog box comes up here. And now we'll just fill out whatever parameters we need to fill out for it. Now, we have the first thing here, which is the rendered track. That's normally the master. Sometimes you may just want to get the certain tracks. Maybe just want the bass track or the pad track or the separate tracks you have in the session. Sometimes I will bounce out separate tracks if I'm going to use this in a different DAW, digital audio workstation. So I have those separate tracks to be the same length, and I can pull them right into the mix. Now also, you may want to normalize. In this case, no need to normalize at all. Since we are set the levels, we already have everything lined up, and we are just bouncing down for a master. I can render as loop, which is no need. No need to make a loop. Right now, it's going to make one overall file that we can play. Now we have audio, our file type. Here in file type, you can use AIFF, or we can use WAV. Now, either one of these files are either going to be after for a while, but they're going to be uncompressed, always. Okay, so it's really good to have an uncompressed file always. Now, if I want, I can convert it to mono. Let's say I'm going to use this in a live recording, or we're going to go out someplace live and play somewhere I might need these tracks. I would do mono recording at that point. That way, there'll be no problem with a stereo field problem when you're out live playing a concert or something. Next, we have sample rate. I normally keep the sample rate the same sample rate as it was in the session, which is the best way to go. That's normally some sort of prosumer level, or 48 Hertz if you want to do that as well. And we have bit depth. I do the same on bit depth. You keep the bit depth, the same bit depth you've had during the session. That way there's no confusion. But if you do have to change the bit depth, it's important to realize here, you say, to go to dither. Now, if I have to change bit depth, and I'm going to go, let's say, from 16 to 24, 32, or go from 32 to 24, there will be noise. There'll be problems happening inside this total bounce, all right? It's going to be real problems. What you can do to correct it, though, is that we can get back here, and we can go to dither, and we can select one of these 5 different options. We have rectangular, triangular, we have the POWR1, POWR2, and R3. Now, according to Ableton Live, the best one to use is triangular. But I suggest, if you're going to change the dither, is to do several bounces and say, okay, I want to do triangular, I want to do POW, 1, 2, and 3, and maybe try the rectangular as well. And hear the difference, so you know that the next time if you have to do it again, you know what the option that's going to work best for you. Now, we're not doing a video, so here we'll press OK. And now, we have the option to save and where to save. I'm going to save it to my desktop here. And I'm going to call this test bounce. And I'll press save. Now, it's saving the file, as you can see. It's bouncing out, it's rendering audio to disk. It's not playing it here, but it's doing internally inside the system. It's playing it real fast. It knows what's going to happen. Because all the animation's been done, and the levels are right. Now, once that's done, it'll appear on my desktop, and I have it right here. Go back to live. Or hide live. I'll pull this up so you can see it. That's the bounce file right there. And I can right-click it and select what I want to use to open it with. And I think I'll select, let's see, let's go to here. Let's try QuickTime. QuickTime opens, I'll play it back. And it plays back as a file. That's pretty cool, right? And that's how we can bounce files down from out of the system.